Hi, my name is Sridhar Ranga, and I'm the Festival Director of KASHISH Pride Film Festival, which is having its online edition from August 15 to September 15. And today we're going to be in conversation with the director and the executive producer of the film Avant Drag with an exclamation. So we'll find out what the exclamation we'll find out what the exclamation is all about, and we're going to talk to them to find out more about the film. Um, just reading out Phil's bio. Phil was born in Athens in 1978 and grew up in northern Greece. He studied film, cultural studies, and communication at the University of North London and Media Arts at Westminster University. In 2010, he completed his PhD in Arts and Communication with a specialization in film poetry at the University of Kent under the supervision of Nikki Hamlin and Judith Williamson. Since 2003, he has been a senior lecturer at Buckinghamshire New University, where he teaches video art, film theory, and animation. His first feature, Orpheus 2021. What a nice name. Okay, I'll find out what it is about. Premiered at Thessaloniki International Film Festival, where it competed for the Film Forward Award, while later it was also nominated for the Greek Film Academy Awards. Wow. The film was screened in film festivals in Boston, Rotterdam, Toronto, Copenhagen, London, Stockholm, and others. The film Avant Drag is about 10 drag performers finding solace in each other as they rebel against an oppressive reality and those who cannot control it. And it's a highly, I would say, colorful film, highly political film, and highly vibrant film. That's the three words I would use for the film. So congratulations on making that such a beautiful film. And the film has traveled to many festivals across the world already. So thank you for bringing it to India and Indian audiences for sure. And we're going to be seeing it in the online edition. So Phil, I want to first ask you what made you make this particular film? How did you come in touch with the drag queens? You have 10 protagonists. It's a lot of people. And that's the first question I want to ask you. Yeah.
Yeah, the scene, the queer scene, the queer art scene in Athens is not actually so huge. It's a vibrant moment for it, but numerically speaking, it's not like huge. There are a lot of things happening at the moment, and a lot of reaction to some very conservative narratives that exist here or are even coming back to some extent. And so a lot of artists are doing are expressing themselves sort of like on the other side of this reality, and drag performers also. Most of the people that participate in this, we have worked before, or we are,
Oh,
you know, we've been collaborators previously. It's it's an interesting scene, but it's not a huge scene. And of course, it is important to say that there are more drag queens in Athens, but this is the focus on those that do more, let's say, more political work. This is the focus on those who do whose work is a little more eccentric, also a little more original,
mhm.
and they go beyond the entertainment value of the drag performer to tell us something about society or ourselves in a way.
Right. And what is your previous film about, which went to so many film festivals? What is that about? Was it about drag queens too?
The previous film that we made,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm talking about like
Orpheus
Orpheus
20.
2021.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are very many common elements. Orpheus is not a documentary; it's actually an opera.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
and it's really for the fans of opera in many way,
Okay.
because it has opera almost all the way through. No, it's a fiction film that imagines what would happen if the prime minister of Greece was gay, basically.
Wow.
And so
Okay.
Almost happened.
it almost happened. Yeah, when we made it, it was a sci-fi. It was considered sci-fi. Now uh, it almost became prophetic.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. You
But
had a
then
candidate was you had a presidential candidate was gay.
the 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 can the
One of the main candidates.
the main candidate for the opposition party was gay, but he only lasted a short time. But not because he was gay exactly. It's a complicated situation. But yeah. So yeah, it was an opera, but again, it was created with a lot of the people from the queer performance scene. I have been a member of this for about 12 or so years now. So it's and I don't just make films. I also do performance events. We have like a small space in Athens. Spyros is also a member of it, which is like a queer hub, let's say, and we're making events and we're producing arts in it and so on. And so yeah, it's very much a family kind of film. It's a film that very much started from a community and the community itself wanting to give the narrative rather than the narrative coming, if you know what I mean, from the outside. In recent years in Greece, you have phenomena of institutions wanting to be more open-minded about queer art and so on. But they very frequently do it in ways that are not particularly well made because they are just so detached from the reality of this.
Quite superficially.
Yeah, very superficially indeed. And so the what we knew was that we wanted to do it, you know, from our own ideas, you know, and from the community itself, like to actually speak about real people as opposed to what, you know, some sort of like state foundation would imagine queer life is.
Right. And as Spyros, like when did you join the production? Were you part of his previous production too, or did you were you part of the previous production and also this? When did you join it?
I actually had also worked in the previous film, but way less. Like while in Avant Drag, I was alongside Phil, one of the people that were maybe like the more of the core team. For me, it was really important, especially seeing films or like seeing queer films that are usually quite normative to be able to be part of a project that is quite of a contrast to that. And I think that the film that Phil had imagined back then was really like a different proposal on what it is a documentary, but at the same time also what is a queer documentary and how can we capture these people with including only what they would like to share and not basically forcing them to share more than they would like. So I think for me, especially politically, that was quite important. And it was quite fresh and quite different from other film productions. So that was, I think, the main reason that I decided to join this project. And honestly, me and Phil would never imagine the size and the reach that this film acquired. Like right now, we managed to show it in all the widths and lengths of the earth. So it's quite touching and quite moving, actually.
Wow, congratulations. And Phil, your approach mixes street footage, DV, grit, and poetic narration. How do you decide on this hybrid style? Is it your regular spam? Is it your like the style regularly? And what did
Yeah,
you want to achieve with the audience? You know, that's it. Yeah.
my background is more so, I would say, fine art rather than actually cinema.
Hmm.
Although this is a strange one, even the moment I'm saying it, I'm not too sure it's exactly like this. Let's say I have very little to do with mainstream narrative cinema. I studied for a very long time, almost 20 years now, experimental film. And I also work with students who make these, you know, eccentric and idiosyncratic personal films.
Hmm.
And so this idea that a film is like they've described Avant Drag as a kaleidoscope, which I really like this idea.
Right.
Also a puzzle. How even its form is made of different things, and you have to actually like piece it together
Okay.
to make the whole story. And so for me, this is not. I know that it is a little bit fashionable these days to use analog technology and to,
Mhm.
oh, we're using analog technology because it looks old. Ever since the Instagram filters, we have this kind of retro chic. And I don't, I'm not, I think it's interesting, but I'm not interested in this particular aesthetic necessarily. So
Mhm.
the reason why I use a lot of different camera styles and also film styles in general
Right.
is because I think it reflects on the way that queer lives are made. Because if we are very honest ourselves and we look at how, traditionally, historically, and even contemporarily, queer lives are, very often they are made of connections and stories and sometimes even hidden elements and
Right.
something that doesn't quite fit and another thing. So there is a sense that if you create something that is in my opinion, if you create something that is a collage, then you are closer emotionally to the queer psyche. I know that
Mhm.
that the time is now pushing for emotional, dramatic LGBT narratives. A boy comes and falls in love with another boy. I know this is the fashion at the moment. It's like
And a boy who can't come out, basically, he'll take forever to come out to his own self.
yeah, and these kind of yes, coming of age stories, very it's so difficult. So yes, I know this is the fashion at the moment, and I know that there is a generation that wants to claim, I don't know, normality. I It's very difficult for me to go around and tell them, hey, don't do that. But I don't want to do that. I think that one of the first things we knew, and we discussed it amongst all the performers, was that we wanted to pay tribute to a time where drag was a political act, a time
Yeah.
time when queer arts were, political, like it was there were whole decades that it's very difficult. No, I mean, it still is in many places very difficult to produce queer art. I understand this.
Mhm.
Um, but let's say that now generally it is becoming more acceptable. And because it is becoming more acceptable, it is also becoming more mainstream and so on. We wanted to pay tribute to the time where it was dangerous to do drag, where it was like breaking normality, and it was telling something about the world. And
Yeah.
I one of the I'm very happy that I work with Spyros, who is much younger than me, because my relationship with queer arts has to do with seeing things in the late 90s, early zero
Right.
in different places in the world. Um, and to work with someone who is interested in taking these ideas and actually doing something with them in a contemporary context, that is, I think, very precious. That we've come as a team, and we're trying to, we are from different generations, but we're trying together to look into this idea of what does it mean to make queer films that are not the
Not.
usual kind of. And Spirits, if you want, you can add to this.
Yeah.
I think that it's absolutely like that, and I think that it's especially like movies nowadays always try to have like a target audience that's quite limiting, and it's always like it will either be for youngsters or for older people
Mhm.
and so on. And I think that we really try to make a film that would be relatable to people that are not necessarily even queer, that are, you know, first and foremost political, and they already like feel the struggles that we're going through as community and also as people, that the people that are depicted in the film. And I think that was like the first element, and after that, trying to make it relatable to a bigger array of people that is not necessarily connected to one generation, but it was spanning through different generations, both through the styles that the film is going through with the video and the image basically that is changing like styles, but at the same time also with the characters of the people. Like, of course, we have like drag performers that are in their late 50s, and then at the same time we have drag performers in the film that are in their mid 20s. So I think
Yeah.
like this variety can also like create a connecting point for different people to connect to different parts in the film.
Yeah, very well said. Like, I mean, in fact, like the other one of the characters after the 10th character for me is the city of Athens itself. You know, that
Mm.
itself is also a character in your film, and so many outdoor shots that drag queens performing and posing outside. So, Spyros, was it very difficult for you to get permissions to shoot outdoors? How is the situation in Greece or Athens
Uh,
for doing that? You know?
you're making a very, very nice point. And we, again, it was one of the very first things we knew. Interestingly, relates to your comment about coming out films. We wanted to be out from the very first scene. Like,
Right.
like this is, we are out, you know, like we cannot be further out than this. It is actually on the street.
It's quite
Um,
powerful film, yeah.
yeah, yeah, we wanted to make this statement very directly. And to be honest with you, one of the reasons why the film has the subtitle reimagine Athens. Like in the subtitle, we say we reimagine the drag performance reimagine Athens, is because Greek society is not really there. We are, you know, and to answer to your question of permissions, we didn't get permissions.
We
We
didn't, yeah.
It's all guerrilla filmmaking. We knew the things that would cause us trouble, like if you shoot like ancient Greek stuff and like pillars and like ancient Greek monuments and stuff, you can get into trouble. If you avoid those, then your biggest problem would be the people in the you know, who are homophobic and so on. And of
Mhm.
course, there were cases like this. We had difficulties shooting. It wasn't like, oh, you know, it's we are on the streets and it's fun. No, it's not like that. It's not like in, you know, I'm sure there are places where it's more difficult to be, but Greece is a homophobic place. It's not, you know, it's maybe some people might think, I don't know, the Mykonos, or they might think
Mm.
gay
Yeah.
dancing in Mykonos, or they might think that you know, about ancient Greeks being homosexuals or whatever. But these are imaginary stories of people who create mythological versions of Greece. Really, reality is not easy for queer people. And again, as I said, I don't want to be. You know, I don't want to be mean to those who have real daily problems.
Mhm.
It's not like gay people, for example, get murdered all the time. Like we don't live in such a place. Um, but it's not like it's impossible to happen, as the film shows. Oh, that's a spoiler. I don't know if we're.
No, don't talk
At
about
the
it.
same
Let
time, I
us
feel
see the
that
film.
but at the same time, I think that that was also part of the discussions and conversations that we were having with the people that were part of the film since day one, that about the dangers and the things that we were expecting that it could happen in the public sphere. So I think that we never filmed something that the people were not aware of the of every possible outcome. And I think, of course, like you can never prepare for everything, but we did a really good work with the people that were walking on the streets, at least like having at least a DIY group of protection and people
Mm-hmm.
were accompanying us, and we're creating like at least like a impromptu like gap between like the fascists and the art group. So it was like a sort of protection. So I think that was really important, despite like the situation that we managed to have a more of a friendly and DIY situation to protect us.
Thank you for sharing that. In fact, like that brings to me another point. Like, I mean, I know that the Greek families are very much like they're all family oriented, like in India. I mean, they really stick together, and it's a large families. And because of that, there's too much of social pressure for LGBTQ people to come out openly. And I mean, I've seen many films, narrative films from Greece, which where the family pressure is too much for the person not to come out. Okay, has it reduced now, or still there's like I mean a lot of pressure? I mean, I'm saying families are conservative still. They still prefer to hide the fact that they have a gay or lesbian child in the home.
I think the case of Greece is an interesting one in terms of where we are at the moment.
Mhm.
I was looking recently at a website that shows. I know those websites are problematic in various ways of collecting data, but I was looking at websites that talk about freedom of expression for LGBT people around the world. And one of the
Mhm.
most interesting things about Greece was the fact that it had one of the largest gaps between what is actually legal and what is actually accepted by people.
Excellent.
So,
Correct.
Greece is at the moment doing very okay for LGBT rights, but that does not reflect where society is. So Greece is in this very particular point where, on the one hand, is very much traditionalist, exactly as you described. A traditional is very, very central, and families are very central, and a lot of that are about hiding LGBT people and so on. It is improving with younger generations, but it still is very much the case. Um, Yet at the same time, Greece belongs to a European Union that is supposed to anyway be progressive about those things, and so there is pressure to allow to give more rights. So if someone looked at the legislation in Greece at the moment, they would be like, "Oh my God, you're doing really okay here. There's like
Right.
no problem for you. It's better than Britain or something." And but reality is not like that at all. And I'm even we me and Spyros even lived in Spyros is not now in Athens, but we were talking about Athens experience as well. The experience in small towns is just forget
Right.
it, forget it.
Yeah.
So yeah, very much traditionalist, very much not about coming out, not about public expression of not just drag, even affection. I think
Yeah.
is accepted.
And Spyros, as a younger member of the community, I mean, as a younger person, what is your take on this? How families have they changed right now, or they're still sticking to orthodox ideas?
I think there's definitely been like a wave of moving backwards, especially in the
Oh
past
yeah.
year. Like I think the past like maybe like 3 or 4 years, like after COVID, like there's been like a huge rise of conservatism throughout Europe, I would say, and Greece is not different on that. So the as Phil mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of like more rights to have something legalized, but at the same time, socially, we've been quite we're moving quite fast for backwards. So
Hmm.
yeah, that was also my experience, and I think that was also like one of the main reasons that personally, I left Greece a few years ago, and I try to live in more of a Central Europe, which I mean it's not much more progressive, but yeah, that's a different conversation.
Okay. One of the previewers who saw the film in the preview stage said that it seems much more reactionary and political and large elements of religious and revolutionary elements thrown in. Apart from racism, which is a recurrent theme, most drag people featured are perhaps immigrants. That's a question I want to ask you this. And drag culture here is so different from the more exposed and visible American drag scene. That's what one of the previewer felt. I mean, this usually we have seen drag culture through the American kind of styling. So this is so different. And also, like, I mean, are there out of the 10 people, are they all immigrants or basically natives of Greece? Just an approximate idea.
In terms of the style of in terms of the question of the style of drag, or I would say the style slash the content, because I think they are together. Um, these people, our performers, they are very much aware of what is RuPaul's Drag Race, like of what is American drag, um, and they do not do that like purposefully, and I think it is a pity to think of American drag like this, because if you think about Marsha P. Johnson,
Yeah.
she was also a drag performer and possibly one of the most political and important rebels for queer people for the 20th century anywhere in the world. Like I would argue that, and to bring American drag to connect it with RuPaul's Drag Race as opposed to this important history is such a pity, and it just shows how neoliberal democracies are not necessarily going forwards when it comes to progressive thinking. Maybe rights appear more, but actually it's not like where we are. But anyway, closing this about American drag. The In terms of your question of the people in the film, it's a mixture of migrants and people who are
Native.
native, and I would say this applies in general to the queer scene more so than the, let's say, mainstream art scene. It's more
Mhm.
difficult to make it in the mainstream art scene as a migrant. I think the queer scene is a little bit more accepting. It's apart from a homophobic society, it is of course also a racist society. The film shows that history is very much has very much shown that. Um, uh, Greece again is a mixture of Europe and, let's say, post-Ottoman kind of country, and
Mhm.
racism exists in both of those
Yeah.
spheres. So in a way, you have those two spheres that have a lot of racism on their basis, plus the whole ancient Greek thing. So altogether, a very racist country, I would say. In fact, I would go as far as to say that Greece is more racist than it is homophobic in
Oh,
general.
okay. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not that we should ever like compare these things, but I
Yeah, of course.
just to give a sense of this in the context of our discussion.
Mhm.
That's why
Mhm.
we knew again from the very beginning that this discussion had to be intersectional. There was no
Right.
way that we would talk about LGBT rights and not bring
Not
in,
so.
experience of being a migrant in the city. It is not
Okay,
very
nice.
easy. It is not
Yeah.
very easy to do that because, as you can imagine, not many people who have migrated here and have these very complicated life stories, very complicated family stories, not so many of them, end up doing arts let's say, the luxury of arts, and not even so many of them, and even fewer of them end up doing drag. So it is
Yeah.
not, it's not
Of
a,
course.
it's not a very easy thing to, to scout for, but it is important, and that's why, and we knew it, that we wanted it from the beginning to be included in the film, because we wanted to show that the problems of discrimination in Greece are like, they're like a thread of different things that come together. It's not like everything else is sorted, but homophobia somehow remains, or transphobia. No, it's, they
Mhm.
are, these struggles are interconnected. And I think we have, as LGBT, uh, as LGBT movements, especially in the so-called West or Europe, we have forgotten about this. We have forgotten that struggles have to be intersectional. They have to be about different things at the same time. And we're even seeing dreadful phenomena now in Europe, where you get people queer people participating in far right parties and so on, and
Right. Yeah.
it's a disgrace.
Mhm.
It's a disgrace to our history. It's a disgrace to human beings' history, like how such contradictions exist.
Yeah.
I think it's quite important to also add that in the film it's not basically we didn't capture all the drag performers that exist. Of course, there's also like more drag performers that exist in Greece and in Athens and so on. But we really tried to pick a variety of people that wanted to share their story first and foremost, and at the same time also that their politics aligned to the ethos of the film. So that was like really important. And it's important to think that there's also like drag performers that are more similar to, let's say, like the American style, or maybe like the commercial American style.
Right.
But that's not what we our film wanted to be about. So that's why also we didn't include that.
And the film is dedicated to Jackie O. How did their legacy shape the film's tone and message? That's a question one of my team members have asked.
Zaki was my friend, and friend of various people that are involved in the film.
Mhm.
On the day that Zaki was murdered by two members of the public and the police, we were in another queer arts festival. We were having fun. A friend of ours came there and said, "Zaki is missing. We don't know where they are, and it's." And we all said, "Oh, don't worry, Zach is a bit of a party person, like they're probably not picking
Mm.
up their phone and so on." And then the next day, we found out that they were killed. And this was a very big shock, because I think exactly for the reasons that I described before, this kind of fake Europeanization of Greece, we felt for a bit that something like that wouldn't happen. There was this, it was never really safe, but if you kept reasonably in the closet, then you would be okay, let's say, you wouldn't die. And so the idea that, okay, now we are in a new kind of era where actually you can die. And so this was very, very traumatic. And because Zach was also um, um, an activist,
Mhm.
was a drag performer and activist for the drag community. It was very traumatic. It was very shocking, and so we knew from the beginning that this film not would be dedicated. And also there's a scene where they discuss the trauma of Zaki's murder. And I think this is an important thing, that in the face of such hostility, various people come together to discuss and share this trauma. And yeah, so this is it. Like I think there is a before and after for the Greek queer scene, for the
Mhm.
Athens especially queer scene. There is a before and after the year 2018 and this murder, basically. Because it's before maybe they were ignoring us, let's say. Now it's like, okay, now it's like we are at war, basically, with the system. So yeah, this is we knew from the beginning that this would be an important political, not even addition. It's like in the back of the, I wouldn't even call it addition, like inclusion. It's in the back of the mind of many people, and so it had to find itself here.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, go ahead.
Also, a lot of people were inspired to start drag after the loss and the murder from the police of Zaki. Like also some performers from the film, but apart from that, also a lot of people that live in Athens or also in the countryside of Greece that they learned about this news that they wanted to be part of that change of it. So they were also inspired. There's not only the loss, but there's also like working through the loss with that creative way.
Okay, thank you. And what is your next project looking like, Phil and Spyros? Are you going to be working together or separate projects? How is it looking? What are you working
We
on
are
now?
working, yes, indeed. In fact, just before this meeting, I was editing because we are already in the post-production
Wow.
stage. Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
we're
it's another
no,
feature film. Yeah.
yes.
It's a documentary or it's a narrative or
Somewhere
you
in
want to
the
reveal it?
middle. I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think we always like to play with the forms and the limits of what is what. So yeah, this time we're trying something a bit more maybe like art house comparably to how Avant Drag was, but at the same time yeah, there's a lot of people that were also part of Avant Drag. In a way, it's also maybe an extension of the previous film, but moving into like maybe more other territories, also maybe more European wide and not only Athens wide.
Yeah,
I like the way you talk so much without actually revealing anything to me. I love that.
it takes a lot of the subjects that we opened up about Greek identity. I think Avant Drag is a little bit like we took Greek identity, we put it like on the surgeon's table, and we opened up with like with a knife, and we're looking inside the guts of Greek
Mhm.
society. I think we take these methodologies that we applied in Avant Drag, and we applied to the history of Europe. And it's going to be interesting because to see how the film is perceived, because I think it's easier, if you make a film and you say, oh, in Greece, it's a homophobic place, it's a racist place, la la la. It's easy for them from Germany to say, yeah, well done, a fantastic film, or from France and so on. But now that our film is actually about Europe, I want to see how that is going to perform when it really is very much shaking the foundations of European identity and the so-called, enlightened, progressive Western world, which is, probably has always been, but it's now more than ever a fallacy. So this is what this film is trying to do, and we shall see.
Okay, but do send it to Kashish in as soon as you finish it because like next year we want to show it. So thank you for sharing these thoughts and let's hope to connect again. And everybody who's been watching this particular Q&A, please go and watch the Avant Drag film if you're not watched it yet, or after you watched it, you come and see this Q&A. And there's so many more films to be seen. This is just the second week. We have 2 more weeks of Kashish happening. So please join Kashish Online Film Festival and watch all the films. Thank you so much. Thank you, Phil and Spyros, for joining in the conversation. Really happy for this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Bye.